Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to council tonight. It's a special anniversary for the city of St. Thomas, the 143rd birthday of the incorporation of the city of St. Thomas, and still looking pretty good for somebody who's 143 years old. And we will move on to our meeting tonight, the 9th meeting of the 144th council of the corporation of the city of St. Thomas. And do any of the members have any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on February the 20th, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First, committee strategic direction and development. There are no items on the agenda at this time, Your Worship, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll move to community engagement and services. First item is the Railway City Road Race, a request for a road closure. I have a motion that report ES 0924 relating to Railway City Road Race road closure request be received for information, and further the council authorize the road closures as outlined in report ES 0924, and further that the Railway City Road Race event organizers coordinate the safe operation of the traffic control points as recommended in report ES 0924. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the road race? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless there are any further items from the members, in this committee, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to a tender award for the Bill Martin Parkway reconstruction. I have a motion that report ES 0724 relating to tender 2024-003 award relating to the Bill Martin Parkway reconstruction be received for information, and further the council award tender 2024-003 to L82 Construction Limited in the amount of $1,313,812.49 excluding HST, and further the council authorized the use of an additional $100,000 from the development charges reserved towards this project. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Second item relates to the tender award for Elysian Street reconstruction. I have a motion that report ES 0824 relating to tender 2024-006 award for the Elysian Street reconstruction be received for information, and further the council award tender 2024-006 to JR Excavating Limited in the amount of $2,194,182 excluding HST, and further the council endorse the conversion of Pearl Street from one-way traffic to two-way traffic, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to amend traffic and parking bylaw 45-89. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Well, I'm going to ask one just so Kevin has to come up. Mr. Dilibek, this is like our fourth and fifth, I think, construction award for this year. We've been doing very well at getting quotes under what we thought these projects would take. And we wanted to maybe remind the folks at home, this is what happens when you do your budget early and you can get to the street with estimates. So I'll let you answer that one. I have another question after it.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And that is the benefit of getting the budget approved early. So as staff, we thank council for that so that we can maximize the tax dollars that we do get.
Perfect. The other thing that I've been seeing, because we're here often Tuesday nights with another function in this room, but I'm seeing loads of citizens of St. Thomas coming to pre-construction meetings. And I think last week was another one, whereas first of all, are we getting good attendance at the pre-construction meeting? Are we getting good notices out so that people come to them? I'm seeing a good amount of people here, but you may be able to judge better than me. And what are the types of information they're sharing back with us?
Through the mayor to council. So the attendance is what you could expect for some local street reconstructions. Not necessarily a huge turnout of residents or participants to those. And some of the discussions are more or less questions related to how will I access my property? How long is this going to take? When is this going to occur? And then there's always some questions about like, for example, this one's having a conversion from a one-way to two-way on Pearl Street. And so how will what's those impacts? Is this temporary? Is this permanent? Those types of questions. And I remember Councillor Herbert, you had asked about John Street in the past, when that was converted back in the spring of last year. Had we had a lot of issues? So I went back through some of our records and was able to find that there were 3 complaints about the conversion. One, just knowing if it was temporary or permanent. The other, because they weren't consulted. And the last one is a particular property owner that likes to keep us on our toes. So those are the 3 concerns that we received on John Street. So we feel that this will be another, I would argue, successful conversion to two-way.
Am I correct, though, that Pearl Street has to be done? Otherwise, there'd be no way to enter Pearl Street because it's being blocked off at Elysian. And so we may have to make it two-way so that people can get to and from.
That's correct, your mayor. And anecdotally, through the public information sessions, we heard that some people are like, sometimes I do that anyway, just because it's faster for me. So I think this is a good move all around.
Okay, they didn't say the mayor did it though, right? It's just others did. Okay, great. All right. Other questions on these contracts? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. Kevin can come back up. Under new business with this committee, I noted today that signs are starting to turn up on Scott Street, talking about the conversion. So can you sort of just give an update for the public that are watching tonight as to what to expect over the next few weeks?
Yes, certainly. So through Councillor Peters to council and to the public, the Kane Street construction project is set to get underway. I think we're still in winter, but we're probably going to start construction really soon, the week after March break. Construction notice will be going out to area residents either tomorrow or the next day, as well as residents on Scott and Curtis Street, to advise them of the transformation of those, as well as our social media platforms and leveraging MyFM to get the word out of the conversion. So we're basically starting our construction season a little bit earlier this year. And so this is the first one out the door.
Good on us. And thank you for sharing that. And Councillor Peters, thank you for sharing that another large project that's starting this year too. Anything else under this committee? Seeing none.
Next committee is Corporate Governance and Administration. First item relates to a request under the Retail Business Holidays Act for an exemption from Railway City Brewing and Capsoft Brewing. I have a motion that report CC 0224 relating to the Retail Business Holidays Act exemption request from Railway City and Capsoft brewing companies be received for information, and further that a public meeting be scheduled for April 8th at 6 p.m. in accordance with the Retail Business Holidays Act, and further that staff be authorized to prepare amending exemption bylaws under the Retail Business Holidays Act for Railway City Brewing and Capsoft Brewing. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. To the clerk, if council proceeds with this and following due process that it's finally passed, is this something that can then be put on the books as permanent? Or is this something that is going to have to be done every year by the respective businesses?
We have a new guest speaker this evening.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through to Councillor Peters. No, it would be permanent once the bylaw is passed. Unless council revisits the bylaw, this is not something that had to come year for year. The existing bylaws already allow for the opening of certain holidays, and this would extend it to those on a go-forward basis.
Okay. Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless there are any further items from the members for this committee? And seeing none, council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next order of business is reports of committees. First item relates to a heritage alteration permit for the property at 831 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0224 relating to the heritage alteration permit for the property at 831 Talbot Street be received for information. And further, the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 831 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0224, subject to the following condition: that the new sign being installed not be internally illuminated. I moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Wookey.
Questions or comments on the report? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Could I get an explanation on why it cannot be internally illuminated? I'm just not sure what that means, not internally illuminated. Because it's a concern, obviously.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, to Councillor Peter or Councillor Herbert. So the policies in the Heritage Conservation District advise against the use of internally illuminated signs on Talbot Street and prefer externally illuminated, so like a light pointing at the sign rather than the light coming from behind the sign.
Okay. And I like the rendering of the sign that's there. So. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further reports. We'll now move into petitions and communications. The first item is a request for proclamation and jumbo lighting for United Nations World Press Freedom Day. I have a motion that the Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 3rd, 2024 as United Nations World Press Freedom Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the jumbo monument be lit in blue and white on March the 3rd, 2024 for United Nations World Press Freedom Day. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, second by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a request for a proclamation for Apraxia Awareness Day. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 14th, 2024 as Apraxia Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from the town of Perry regarding eligible sources for blue box recycling materials. Next item is a letter received from the Mayor of Hamilton regarding an Ontario Energy Board decision to end gas pipeline subsidies. Next item is a notice received from the County of Elgin of a public open house on March the 19th at 5 p.m. and a public meeting on March the 26th at 5 p.m. to be held at the county offices. And this is relating to the proposed Elgin County official plan. Next item is a letter received from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks regarding proposed updates to the environmental assessment process.
Councillor Clark.
Sorry, Your Worship, I wanted to comment on the one before that and just ask staff whether or not it's common practice of whether or not we make any comments about adjoining municipalities and their official plans, because it could influence us. So with Elgin County's official plan coming up, is that something that we do, or do we stay out of that?
I think I see Mr. Pompili rising. I thought he'd have the answer to that question. Mr. Pompili?
Yep, through you, Your Worship. Yep, no, good. That's a good question. We're just as we advise area municipalities when we're doing an update to our official plan, we're also provided notice of that. So if there are comments that we have, concerns that we have, we will participate or can participate, and that can come directly from staff, or that can come through council to staff to then relay to the county.
Further questions? Counselor Clark?
I guess the question then is, do we have any concerns based on our borders right now, or just different files that we're working on that involve the county? Is there any need for any discussion on that matter?
Mr. Pompili, do we have any suggestions to their OP or comments?
Through your worship, at this point, I haven't had a chance to review it. Internally, we will, as some other members of our senior leadership team, I'm sure that we will sit back, review it. We meet quite regularly, and it's something that we can discuss. And if there's comments that we feel we need to advance forward, we'll advance them through council first. So council can weigh in on that as well.
Perfect. Counselor Wookie?
Thanks, your worship. On that point, Mr. Pompili, I'd really appreciate as we go forward, when a neighboring municipality changes their official plan or does something, that it'd be great for us to get a little bit of a tutorial for council in terms of what's changed and how might it influence us. That'd be a fantastic thing. I think we'd all appreciate once. I'm just thinking the outcome of this Elgin County plan. Thanks.
So Counselor Wookie, just as information, hey, they are doing it, and here's where the information is.
Thanks, your worship. Yeah, just like, or like a kind of Coles Notes thing at the end to say, okay, so this is what they changed from their official plan, and from Mr. Pompili's point of view, here's how this might have an impact on us, just objectively, like, and because I don't know, honestly, like I could go look it up, but I think us all hearing about it from our planner would be a great thing down the road, just in terms of highlights of kind of broad strokes of what's going on in our neighboring municipalities. Thanks.
Great. Next one.
Moving on to the next one, notice of study commencement has been received from the City of St. Thomas and from AECOM Canada Limited of the commencement of a municipal class environmental assessment study relating to the recommendations contained in the pollution control plant, pumping station, and force main master plan. The last item under petitions is a letter of thanks from the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, thanking Mayor Preston for a recent meeting at the 2024 Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference. Unless the members have any items under petitions, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. Your worship, seeing no items, now new business of council.
I know that Counselor Baldwin Sands has one. I see Counselor Herbert's hand.
Thank you. I just would like to recognize March as International Women's Month, and this week we have several Women's Days events happening in the community, and I would like to send a special thank you to the two other members of council that are also women and represent women, strong women around the table, and they take the time to lean in and take charge and represent the community very well. And maybe they have an idea of some of the other community events that are happening as well.
Okay. Counselor Herbert, you were next.
Thank you, worship. I actually have two things, if I may, and I'll address the first one first.
Can you save one for next week, or?
I could, but I'll
Both
say
of
it
them
tonight.
Okay.
The first one is, and I'm glad I see Dave Gregory's on the line here. I had the opportunity in February 23rd to attend the Petroleum Emergency Awareness Workshop. It was a one-day workshop. And it was built on two themes: underground wells that have been filled in, and the other part, complacency of firefighters and strange odors that they have to address. The first part, and everybody knew about Wheatley, where they saw that explosion, and that was from an underground well that was filled in years ago, and they actually have video of the picture of it exploding, and you could see that they had it all shut down. Everything was emergency. It was in 2 weeks they were getting ready, and all of a sudden it exploded. People were flying everywhere in the air. Nobody was killed, thank goodness, but that was because it was an underground well, and there were strange odors coming out, and you really didn't understand what the odors meant. And it was a really bad situation. And so it was built on that. And then and I bet you Council Peters might have some knowledge about this. They had talked to somebody who had lived there for years, and they said in 1930, that corner where it happened actually had a small explosion, but they filled it all in and they built over it, and there's what's happened. So it's a real concern, and a lot of the cities, I talked to the London Fire Department, they've got areas where the underground wells have been filled in and they could be very dangerous. And the second one is complacency about how firefighters will answer a call and there'll be a strange odor and they'll go in without mask on and they start breathing it in and all of a sudden they're in trouble. And they showed you firemen dying, collapsing in the room. So I just wondered if it was fantastic for me to be there. I just wondered, Dave, if I could through Dave Gregory, maybe comment on it, see what his thoughts are about these underground wells and the dangers that they can give to us. So anyway, if you're there, Dave, I don't know. I see he's on the screen.
I see him unmuting himself. So, Chief, if you've got a point to help Councillor Herbert feel safer.
Absolutely, through you, your worship. Thank you for having me, and to you, Councillor Herbert. And great point. Yes, there in the past years, through different departments, there's been some complacency issues. So through these learning, and I attended that same session that you and I think Councillor Gibson went to. I attended that at an earlier session, and the one that the captain out of London did when they had the car that had hit the gas line, and how they respond to that. So each of these represent a different type of call. Every call is different in how you prepare for those calls. Sometimes it takes somebody else's failure to improve your standard operating procedures. So we have a set of standard operating procedures, and every time we get a gas call of any type now, it's a full crew response. What that may have looked like 20 years ago, it may have looked totally different. But so when we get a call to any type of odor, it's a full crew response, and we'll, maybe evacuate the area. We'll go in. We all carry 4 gas detectors, which cover different types of gas that could be in the area. And then we also carry personal hydrogen cyanide monitors within the trucks. So each and every gas is different, and we do have legacy wells, and that we know where they are. We know what year they were capped, who capped them. There's a license number that goes with them, and we're aware of these things. So anytime, because of somebody else's issue or something that a tragedy that's happened in a different area, it always gives you that chance to look at your standard operating procedure. And this happens just not with this happens with and Mr. Pompili can attest to this, lightweight construction. Some of the new houses that are being built, they're structurally very sound, but when you add heat and flame to these, they're not as structurally sound as they are without that. So it changes how we do things day to day, and we try to stay as on top of whatever we can. And we read and we send guys to training. That's why we send people to training, and that's why we constantly adjust our standard operating procedures to, whatever we have, we'll do.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. So my second question would be the issue of skunks. But my wife was in the park last week and there was a skunk running around, and she had other 2 ladies reported them that there was 2 different places, Simcoe Street and someone else. They had called the city, and they really felt that they didn't get a good response at what do you do with the skunk that's running around, that's in trouble? Who do you talk to and what you do? So I called Mr. Bray today, and he sent me a little email, but he said he'd be prepared to say a little talk about it on tonight. Just what are the responsibilities of the city, if there are any? So
Then I guess we've got Mr. Bray coming to talk to us about skunks.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Yeah, there's been a rash of skunks with distemper with the warming weather. City staff, I'm speaking on behalf of Kevin's team as well, do not address skunks, whether healthy or diseased. I believe Kevin's staff will remove raccoons that are healthy or diseased off of city property. If someone sees a skunk, there are authorized animal rehabilitation agencies that can deal with them. The problem is they take them to a vet to be humanely euthanized. But if it happens on the weekend, these are largely volunteer-driven groups, and also it's hard to find a vet that's open on the weekend. So it's kind of 2 issues there. It's also important to remember that through Kevin's team, if one of these agencies are called in, the fee from the vet to euthanize the skunk is covered by the city.
Counselor Herbert?
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. So the one that Rita saw, the skunk was running in circles, probably distemper.
Correct.
Nothing can be done. Like, you just let it keep running and get away from it?
Yes.
That's just what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, distemper really only affects dogs, skunks, foxes, coyotes, and raccoons.
That's amazing. What if
Yeah.
there's little kids playing around and all of a sudden something, I hypothetically, but anyway, that's fine. If that's the policy, that's the policy. So-
Humans cannot get distemper, but I can't say the skunk won't bite them or spray them.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
it's just to stay away.
Anything else under new business? Counselor McCauley?
Just to add to Councillor Baldwin Sand's notes regarding International Women's Day in the month of March, there are a number of events taking place. This Saturday, the YWCA had their sold-out annual event. This Wednesday, the Ennis Sisters are at the Princess Ave Playhouse. Violence Against Women Services has their community breakfast on Thursday morning. The Queso Station has an event on Friday evening, and then throughout the month of March, Myrtle Shop in downtown St. Thomas is collecting menstrual care products supporting women in need. And she will give you $10 off any purchase when you bring in donations. So it's a very packed March for celebrating women.
I also believe a lot of notifications of women in business also being recognized on social media through the month of March too. So congratulations to all. Counselor Peters.
Thanks, Worship. Some trivia. The first woman elected to any public body in St. Thomas was a lady by the name of Eva McCully, and she was elected to the school board in 1920. The first woman elected to St. Thomas City Council was a wonderful lady, because I got to know her in her later years, Edra Sanders. And Edra was elected in 1936, and she was the first woman to sit in this chamber. Edra had higher aspirations and ran for mayor in 1937 and was not successful, but she went on to another very successful career. The first woman principal in St. Thomas was in 1958, Vita McClarty. She was a principal at Locke School, so it took a while for women to break the glass ceiling. And of course, our own Janet Golding serving as mayor from 1985 to 1991, and Joanne Brooks later on. So a little bit of trivia for you.
Thank you, Counselor Peters. Further new business? Seeing none?
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 4th day of March, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to adopt official plan amendment 109 to the City of St. Thomas's official plan. This relates to a new industrial facility at 44197 Ron McNeil Line.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the City of St. Thomas. This permits a new industrial facility at 44197 Ron McNeil Line by Vicano Developments Limited.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Last bylaw, please.
Fourth and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Fresh Start Support Services. This relates to a site plan agreement for 118 Center Street for a 3-story, 12-unit building with office space.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Your worship, I rise to report the successful passing of 4 bylaws.
Great.
I have a motion by Counselor Peters, seconded by Counselor Clark, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the four bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
No public notices or notices of motion at this meeting. Your worship, at this time, we have a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, and a proposed or pending disposition of land. Moved by Counselor McCauley, second by Counselor Gibson.
Okay, before I call for the vote on the closed session, to remind the folks at home, we'll be going into closed session. When we finish closed, we'll come out only with the opportunity to adjourn our open session and call it a day. So we thank you for joining us today on Rogers and streaming, and those that were here in public also. So thank you very, very much. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.